Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to Woo Can Cook. My name is Wesley, and this is a show where we are slowly cooking our way through all of the food from my childhood. Today we're diving back into our series on foods from the Bay Area restaurant scene with a request that a few folks from the Oakland subreddit have been asking for, which is the hot and spicy chow mein from the one and only absolutely legendary noodle and dumpling shop, Shan Dong in Oakland, California. For the Bay Area locals that are not familiar, Shan Dong is a longtime staple of the Oakland restaurant scene, offering handmade noodles, dumplings, and Chinese comfort food right here in the heart of Oakland Chinatown. While their hot and spicy chow mein may at first glance look like a pretty typical chow mein with its inclusion of carrots, zucchini, and onion paired with a dark soy sauce noodle marinade, it is unique not only because it can be ordered featuring Shan Dong's handmade noodles, but also because of its approach to creating the hot and spicy qualities that the dish's name promises. Today we're going to be doing that with a combination of Chinese fermented chili paste doubanjiang, Laogan Ma chili crisp oil, and my personal favorite, a healthy handful of dried toasted tian peppers. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so kicking things off, I'm starting off as with many of our stir fries by crushing and mincing 4 cloves of garlic, followed by fine mincing 1 inch or about 1 tablespoon of ginger. Then I'm separating the whites of my green onions, slicing them up thinly, and setting all of this aside for the aromatic element of our stir fry. Then next, I'm taking the greens of my green onions, giving them a slice on a bias, and setting these aside to be used as a fresh final finishing garnish. Next up, we're diving into our veggies here next, starting with a medium zucchini, which I'm slicing into quarters and then large dicing, followed by 2 medium carrots, which I'm peeling and then slicing thinly on a bias for some nice coins. Then finally is going to be half of a medium sweet white onion, which I'm large dicing with the root end still attached to help us hold things together while we chop for a nice even dice. Finally, we're setting all of this aside and we're moving on to our chicken next. Alright, so those here who have ordered this dish at Shan Dong will tell you that their hot and spicy chow mein can be ordered with beef, chicken, or shrimp. For our version today, we're going to be going with a bit of chicken thigh, but if you want to try this one with beef, I would go with a lean flank steak cut, and for shrimp, I'd go with the pre-peeled and deveined stuff, which is going to save you a whole lot of time. For my chicken thigh, I'm slicing this up into 1-inch pieces, then combining it with my marinade of 4 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of Shaoxing wine, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, and a half teaspoon of white pepper. Finally, I'm rounding this all out with half a teaspoon of cornstarch to help keep things tender in our wok sear, and then we're letting it marinate for 30 minutes or up to 1 hour. Next up is my sauce base here. Now, we're going to be reducing this with a bit of chicken stock used to deglaze the fond from our chicken thigh in a moment. So, I'm intentionally keeping this fairly concentrated in anticipation of that extra liquid coming up. Kicking things off is 4 tablespoons of soy sauce and 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar for a bit of brightness, followed by a tablespoon each of dark soy sauce and oyster sauce for our deeper and more rich umami qualities. Finally, next up is the hot and spicy in our hot and spicy chow mein. This is 1 tablespoon of doubanjiang for our more aggressive heat, followed by 2 tablespoons of Laogan Ma chili crisp oil for some more pervasive but subtle heat. Then last up, I'm rounding this all out with a pinch of kosher salt to taste, and we're diving into our noodles next. I'm starting things off here by setting up an ice bath in my largest mixing bowl before we head over to the stove. We are working with handmade Shanghainese round noodles today, which are very delicate, so this ice bath is going to be pretty critical to help us keep our cook time accurate. Over on the stove, I've got a pot of water at a rolling boil, and then I'm dropping my noodles in and letting them cook for 2 minutes exactly. At 2 minutes, I'm pulling these noodles off heat, straining, and immediately blanching in our ice bath to halt the cooking process in its tracks and prevent any unwanted carryover cook here. Once these are cooled off, I'm adding them back to my now empty mixing bowl and marinating them with 2 tablespoons of dark soy sauce, a single tablespoon of sesame oil, and then tossing everything to combine. Back over on the stove, I'm switching my pot out for my wok here, and then I'm heating things up as hot as possible before adding 4 tablespoons of peanut oil, and as always, long yao for that nice non-stick surface. Then next, this step is technically optional, but we're dropping our cooked noodles into the wok and giving it a toss for about 4 minutes until our noodles pick up a bit of color and sear to them. This is going to give our noodles a nice bit of crispy texture later on. Then I'm removing my noodles from the wok, repeating my long yao with just 2 tablespoons of peanut oil now, and adding my chicken 1 piece at a time, doing my very best to hold back as much of that liquid in our marinade as possible. We're letting this sear undisturbed for 2 minutes before giving it a toss and doing my very best to try not to set the camera on fire. Anything for that sweet wok hay though, am I right? Then I'm letting this cook for another minute until cooked through before removing and setting it aside as well. Next up, continuing with our batch cooking here, we're borrowing from a bit of European cooking technique and reserving all of this beautiful fond left behind from our chicken sear. I'm deglazing with a 1/4 cup of chicken stock, then adding my sauce mixture to the wok and giving everything a toss to combine. This is going to infuse our sauce with all of that wonderful chicken fat and flavor left behind from our sear. Finally, I'm emptying my wok out again, giving it a wipe down, 1 more long yao, and we're diving into our veggies next. Okay, so I'm starting off with my carrots and zucchini with a quick 2-minute flash cook, just long enough to cook off a bit of their rawness. Remember that we still want these to be fairly crisp here. Then I'm removing these from my wok, adding another 2 tablespoons of peanut oil and giving a final long yao for our stir fry. Going in first is our aromatics. Here's my garlic, ginger, and the whites of my green onions going in. We're giving this a toss for 10 seconds until fragrant, then following them up with my dried tian peppers by moving everything to one side of the wok to make sure that these bad boys make good solid contact with that hot oil to bloom out their fragrant qualities. Then next I'm adding my cooked veggies back to the wok along with my onions. These are by far the most delicate thing in our stir fry today, so we want to make sure that these onions are only in the wok very briefly, or else they're going to completely reduce into mush. I'm giving all of this a quick toss to combine, then adding my chicken and noodles back to the wok, followed by my sauce mixture. Remember that this sauce is now super concentrated after our reduction, so I'm adding this a few tablespoons at a time and stopping to taste to make sure that we don't over-season our noodles here with too much sauce. Then I'm removing everything from heat, finishing with the greens of my green onions, and we're ready to eat. Alrighty, so while we did use a number of techniques that are pretty common in a traditional chow mein, including the noodle sear, the dark soy sauce marinade, and a variety of veggies, I actually think that the approach to our hot and spicy qualities make this particular version of chow mein fairly unique. Our chicken has a wonderful seared texture to it, our noodles have a nice deep flavor coming from our dark soy sauce marinade, and the 3 separate layers of heat coming from our doubanjiang, laoganma, and tian peppers help to create a really interesting quality of heat that's not overwhelmingly spicy. If you're tired of the same run-of-the-mill chicken chow mein that you will find at literally every Chinese takeout spot that you've ever been to, this is going to be a real game changer for you. Okay, so that's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you give this one a shot. If you are here in the Bay Area and have not yet been to Shan Dong in Oakland, definitely make your way over there as soon as possible. I've been getting the noodles at this spot for well over a decade, and I can tell you that there is a reason why Shan Dong is the first name to come up anytime somebody asks, where can you get good Chinese food here in Oakland? We'll also be cooking through this one live this coming Tuesday right here on YouTube at 6:30 PST, so tune in then and cook along with me too if you want. Lastly, again, if you are here in the Bay Area, the Wu Can Cook Fried Rice pop-up is making its debut at the Hayward Farmers Market tomorrow afternoon, so come by and say hi. More about that at wucancook.com/eats. As always, like, comment, subscribe, internet things, and I'll see you soon. Bye.